Karen Fitzgerald stood in the courtroom, chin held high, her arms sweeping dramatically toward blown-up photos of shattered ceramics scattered across her lawn. She claimed I'd destroyed her precious garden gnome collection in what she called a reckless landscaping incident. Her voice trembled with rehearsed emotion as she told the judge how my negligence had ruined her 30-year collection of antique lawn ornaments, but then my lawyer played the security footage. As it appeared on the courtroom monitor, the room fell silent. Every eye locked on the screen as Karen, clearly intoxicated, stumbled into her own display after illegally trespassing on my property at 2:00 a.m. The judge's shoulders began to shake, then he started chuckling. Even the court reporter had to stop typing to compose herself. My name is David Sullivan. I moved into Pine Valley Estates 3 years ago, thinking I'd found the perfect, quiet neighborhood to settle down. I was wrong. The HOA president, Karen Fitzgerald, had made it her personal mission to turn my life into a bureaucratic war zone. It all began when I replaced my water-thirsty Kentucky bluegrass with native prairie grasses and wildflowers. I did my homework, read every HOA bylaw, got formal approval from the architectural committee, and kept everything fully compliant. But that didn't matter to Karen. She started hammering me with violation notices almost immediately. First, she claimed the grasses were too tall, even though they were within the legal limit. Then she said the wildflowers were attracting too many bees, a safety concern. Later, she accused me of allowing invasive dandelions to spread, completely ignoring that they were part of the native plant mix I'd carefully selected. The harassment escalated. She walked by my house several times a day, snapping photos and scribbling notes on her clipboard. At HOA meetings, she'd make pointed comments about maintaining property values, glaring in my direction every time. It was obvious she wanted me out. Then came the gnome incident. One mild September morning, Karen knocked on my door with a smug grin and a clipboard. She claimed a branch from my oak tree had broken off during the previous night's storm and destroyed several of her beloved antique gnomes. I was instantly skeptical. The wind had barely rustled the trees. My oak was healthy, well-maintained, and professionally trimmed. When I asked to see the damage, she declined, claiming she'd already cleaned it up but had plenty of photo evidence. She demanded I pay $800 for the supposed destruction or face legal action within 48 hours. 2 days later, she filed a small claims lawsuit against me for $950, citing negligence and emotional distress. Her complaint included photos of broken ceramics, but conveniently lacked any images of fallen branches, timestamps, or witnesses. Something smelled off. Luckily, I'd recently installed a comprehensive 4,000 security system with full property coverage. The result of another false claim Karen had made months earlier, saying my sprinklers had damaged her car. They hadn't. The system hadn't worked in months. Curious, I reviewed the footage from the night of the alleged gnome massacre. What I found was jaw-dropping. At 2:13 a.m., my cameras caught Karen stumbling drunkenly across her lawn, a baseball bat in hand. She approached the fence and tried to hook the bat around a low-hanging branch from my tree. After several clumsy attempts, she climbed onto a decorative rock to get better leverage but slipped on the damp surface. She fell hard. The footage showed her crashing backward, directly into her own gnome display. Ceramic limbs went flying. She lay there for a few moments, then slowly got up, looked around, and began gathering the shattered remains. She arranged the pieces carefully on her lawn, snapped photos from several angles, avoiding the bat, then limped back home, leaving the incriminating evidence behind in her flower bed. It was all there in crystal clear HD from multiple camera angles. I contacted my lawyer, James Morrison, a local expert in HOA disputes. When I showed him the footage, he burst out laughing and called it the most clear-cut case of fraud he'd seen in 20 years. We immediately filed a counter-suit, trespassing, attempted vandalism, and filing a false legal claim. I also sent the video and documentation to the HOA board. Karen's tone changed quickly. Her lawyer called, offering to drop the lawsuit if I dropped my countersuit. I declined. After months of harassment, I wasn't about to let her off with a handshake. My attorney assured me we had an airtight case and likely grounds for punitive damages. Still, Karen insisted on going to trial. She believed her standing as HOA president and pillar of the community would sway the judge. She even orchestrated a character assassination campaign, trying to collect letters from neighbors accusing me of being a menace to community standards. Most declined after hearing my side. The courtroom was packed on trial day. Curious neighbors filled every bench. Karen arrived in a tailored power suit, carrying a thick binder of documents and a practiced air of moral outrage. She even hired her own court reporter to record what she clearly believed would be her victory. She went first, speaking solemnly about her heirloom gnome collection handcrafted in Germany, passed down from her grandmother, priceless and sentimental value. She claimed emotional distress, property destruction, and ongoing trauma. She presented an itemized list of losses, which had mysteriously grown to 1,200. Then it was our turn. My lawyer calmly asked the judge for permission to show video evidence. He nodded. We plugged in the flash drive and projected the footage onto the courtroom monitor. You could hear a pin drop. Karen, drunk, creeping through the night with a bat. Her awkward attempts to damage my tree. Her fall. The crash. The shattered gnomes. Her meticulous staging of the scene. One neighbor gasped audibly. A few others chuckled. The judge tried to maintain composure, but his shoulders shook with laughter. When it ended, he wiped tears from his eyes and turned to Karen. "Miss Fitzgerald," he said, voice tight with restrained amusement, "this is one of the most absurd cases I've presided over in 3 decades. Not only did you trespass with intent to damage your neighbor's property, you destroyed your own, then blamed him. Frankly, if this weren't such a waste of the court's time, I'd call it comedy." He dismissed her case with prejudice, barring her from refiling. Then he addressed my countersuit, citing clear evidence of trespassing, fraud, and attempted vandalism. He ruled in my favor. Karen was ordered to pay $4,500 in legal fees, plus $2,000 in punitive damages, but the judge didn't stop there. He referred the matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges and suggested I file a restraining order, which he said he'd gladly approve. He warned Karen that further harassment could result in jail time. Her face drained of color. She began to protest, but her lawyer placed a firm hand on her arm and shook his head. As I left the courtroom, I overheard neighbors discussing an emergency HOA meeting to vote on removing her as president. Within days, the security footage had gone viral in the neighborhood group chat. Public opinion turned fast. 3 weeks later, Karen was voted out by a margin of 97-3. Only she and her 2 cronies backed her. She was also fined $5,000 by the HOA for misconduct. When the state real estate board reviewed the case, her license was suspended for 6 months, effectively ending her career. The district attorney declined to pursue charges, but issued a formal warning any future misconduct would lead to prosecution. The very next day, Karen listed her house. She couldn't face the neighborhood after what she'd done.